Hey, what's up? So this is part 6 about Eusebius. So I'm going to go over some more things that just makes what Eusebius claim more unbelievable. Um, First off, we go to this image. So yeah, Peter and John, they were apostles to the Jews. They're not apostles to Gentiles, and the only apostle to Gentiles was Paul. So, yeah, so let's go back to, and you'll have access to that image, by the way, in the description below. So Acts 15, the council, before the council took place, let's look at the timeline. So you had the Jerusalem Council roughly around, roughly around 48 to 50 AD. But before that, in Galatians 2, Paul and Peter were in Antioch and they were butting heads. And so, and then later on, that resulted in the Council of Jerusalem. I believe Peter had gone back to Jerusalem first before Paul did. And so Luke, when he wrote in Acts 15, pointed out Paul and Barnabas came back to Jerusalem. Peter is already back. It's like the apostles and the elders. What does it say here? So to the apostles and elders about this question. So we're appointed to go to Jerusalem. So evidently they were butting heads. Peter already come back, and then Paul and Barnabas came later about the question of the Gentiles. And so, yeah, so Peter stands up. He basically, this is really the final statement by him about the Gentiles. And Paul's there. He's the only apostle of the Gentiles. He takes over. So this makes it all official. All right. And then they have the council's letter to the Gentile believers. So, and then, yeah, and then Paul and Barnabas separate. All right. They went away to Cyprus. Notice did not say that Peter went off to Rome. Yeah, again, this is just more evidence that goes against it. Clearly, he was in Antioch. You know, that's not Rome. He was hanging out in Antioch for a while. And let's take a look at this, where that is on the map. So Antioch's right here. All right, Damascus. All right. And yeah, this is about as far north as Peter goes. That's recorded. You have Judea and Jerusalem here. So this is about far they go. All right. And so what does that tell you in Acts 15? That the apostles, they hung out in this whole area. It was Paul that really went out. And what would I want to show you? Yeah. So the apostles and elders were gathered together as matter. So that Peter refers to himself as apostle in both 1st and 2nd Peter, apostle, and he also refers to himself as fellow elder. All right, he never refers to himself pope, and this was written towards the end of his life, by the way. This is around August of AD 66, and that was the year that I believe he died. I believe he died by around September of AD 66. That was the time around the Stick of Joseph gathering. Peter was not part of the Stick of Joseph. Now, when I say Stick of Joseph, I'm talking about the Jews who were scattered throughout the Roman Empire. Peter, on the other hand, he was part of the Stick of Judah. All right. The only interaction that we see that had with the Stick of Joseph was his epistle, 1 Peter. that was it. 2 Peter chapter 1 and 2, which is one epistle. He's writing a stick of Judah and Jerusalem. And 2 Peter chapter 3 was a separate epistle, was also to the stick of Judah, Jerusalem. The stick of Judah were those that are in Jerusalem area. All right. The stick of Joseph were the ones that are scattered throughout the Roman Empire. All right. So at best, let's just go hypothetically. Oh yeah, Peter was in Rome. He only spoke Aramaic. He did not speak Greek. So he had been only able to associate with the Jews. And keep in mind, he's the only apostle of the Jews, not Gentiles. To the Jews in Rome, speaking Aramaic. And what value would we have had? Nothing. Paul already took care of spreading the gospel. See, this is what a lot of Christians don't understand. Matthew 28, when Jesus said, "Go to make disciples of all nations," he was the only people that were in mind were the Jewish people at this point. Gentiles were not in view. So there are 4 different Greek words throughout the New Testament where mention about gospel going out. All right, and in those 4 same Greek words, you will find the fulfillment of all 4 later on. You know, Colossians 1:23 is one of them, Colossians 1:6 or 7 another. There's a couple of others. I'll have the Matthew 24 chart in the description below. I don't have it in front of me. I'm pretty sure I have. Let me try to pull that up. Matthew 24, where I give all 4. Let's see here. No, it's not this one. Let's see, it might be Olivet Discourse. Here we go, Olivet. So I'm pretty sure in this one I have all 4 of the Greek words spelled out. Which ones were to be fulfilled? Well, I'll make sure it's there. So you'll have access to this in the description below. So if you're listening to the podcast version, I encourage you to go to YouTube channel and look for part 6 of book 2, chapter 14 of Eusebius, in the Eusebius playlist, and then look for part 6 in the description below. If I don't have it in here, I will make sure it's in here, where I give all 4 of the Greek words that were used, and all 4 that show the fulfillment of it. Dak Davis has a video on that. I think I'll add the video link to that as well. But anyway, it was fulfilled, and it had to do with the Jewish people at the time. It did not have to do with the Gentiles. And most Christians today, they think that Matthew 28 had to do with the Gentiles. And no, when Jesus said, "I will be with you to the end of the age," he used second person plural, referring to the disciples he was talking to right in front of them. He'd be with them to the end of the age. And he was with them already in the age. Destruction of the temple already. So that's the age that they had in view. They're not talking about some future distant event. But anyway, so Paul and Peter were in Antioch. They were not in Rome. Again, there's nothing that suggests that he'd been in Rome. Eusebius is so off on that, and it's a flat out lie. And unfortunately, your typical Roman Catholic apologist, they're going to try to find a way to defend it. Good luck. It'd be interesting what they have to say. But the problem is, when a person believes something to be true that's actually false, they go off on a tangent, not know it, and then they mold the scripture around that. So you have the Council of Jerusalem there. Trying to think here, what else did I want to get across? Yeah. So, let's see here. And then again, 2:7 said, on the contrary, when they saw that I had been entrusted with the gospel to the uncircumcised, that's referring to Paul, just as Peter had been entrusted with the gospel to the circumcised. Again, apostle to the Jews, and Paul the apostle to the Gentiles. Couldn't be any more clear. And I believe that was written right before the council. Let's go to the timeline here. Yeah, right before the council of Jerusalem. All right, so this took place shortly before that. All right, because this had to take place or that led up to the council of Jerusalem. Alrighty. So basically, then Peter gives his final word concerning Gentiles in Acts chapter 15, and then that's it. It's done. Let it goes out, and Paul officially goes from there. And then he starts his second journey. All right, see why it's so important to put together chronology and how it really helped piecing all this together. And Peter is still to follow through with John chapter 21, feeding the house of Israel. Remember, he had the boat, he's a fisherman, and he would continue on all the way to the day he died. Alrighty, which John 21 seems to be suggesting he had been feeding them all the way to the day he died. And that's the physical as well as the spiritual. So remember, Jesus said, first feed my sheep, feed my lambs. So that is physical. And then he said, shepherd my lambs. Now we get in the spiritual. And then he said again, feed my sheep. That is spiritual. So it's physical to spiritual. And that goes all the way to the end. And it had to do with the house of Israel. Remember, Peter was apostle to the Jews all the way through. Never apostle to Gentiles. And so, yeah. And it's just like Paul said, he'd been entrusted with the gospel to the uncircumcision. That would have been all the way to the end. Alrighty. And he was the chief apostle. That's the one thing I agree with Roman Catholics. He was the chief apostle. And a lot of Protestants reject that because they want to see Peter as sort of being equal. And in a sense, he was equal, but he was the first one chosen by Jesus. And he was the first one, based on Matthew 16, that experienced that regeneration. And I believe when he stepped forward, after experiencing that regeneration, the rest of them, except for Judas, would also experience it. They understood what they were talking about on Matthew 16. Alrighty. So anyway, I feel like I'm starting to ramble on here. But I think I made all my points here. So, yep. I think that's it. Alrighty. So, again, Eusebius was flat out lying. And why? It was to try to tap into the Christian or the religious arena, particularly the Christians, and trying to use them to centralize power around Rome, which is really beginning the Roman Catholic Church. Alrighty? And so I encourage you to really follow through with this image here. This whoever created this image, it hit the nail on the head. Again, these two, John and Peter, they were never apostles to Gentiles. Even with Acts 10 and Acts 15, it appeared that Peter might have been. No, he was never apostle to the Gentiles. He was just making that official transition from the Jews, Gentiles, to the gospel. And Paul took over at that point from Galatians chapter 2, and then the Council of Trent, or the Council of Jerusalem. Sorry, alrighty. Then that made it all official. Alrighty. I hope you see that when you read the text, what I'm saying, and then from that point forward, we don't see any evidence that Peter ever shared the gospel with the Gentiles. Yeah, it's I mean, making a video, another book on Eusebius. It's the Acts of Peter, And that is a total fabrication. And it goes in there, some of the things it does, and oh my gosh, supposedly it's a Gentile. It's so fabricated. And it's just sad that people buy into this stuff, hook, line, and sinker, the fabrications. Some people have a better level of discernment than others, I guess. So anyway, that wraps this up. So I encourage you to really understand this image right here, see in front of you. Two main kinds of apostles in the Bible. You have the 12 tribes. Jesus was replaced by Matthias. These were apostles to the Jews. They always were from beginning to end. Same way with John. And I can understand why people get confused and start thinking that he's apostle Gentile. No. Once you go down that path, you are going down the path of confusion. Again, with Peter as well. Once you go down that path, the apostle Gentile, you are going down 100% guaranteed the path of confusion. And keep it simple. As you understand this image and follow through with it, and things will really make more sense. And there's less confusion. Alrighty. All right, so that wraps up this video. So I hope now you see with Book 2, Chapter 14, with Eusebius, just how false his statement was. It just does not fit the biblical narrative at all. And it does not fit the history either. And maybe your theory why he lied and deceptive might be different than mine, but I really think at the time he wrote it, since there is no separation of church versus state, in the time of Emperor Constantine, and with Constantine, it was not a true conversion. It heavily points to he was trying to centralize power around Rome, and they were very successful with that. All right, well, thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.